Forward.
Perfect. Should be recording. Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the LinkedIn. Well, not LinkedIn Live. It's actually Google Live, but the session to turn a lesson or coaching lesson into an AI assistant. So, welcome everyone, and everyone watching the replay. Also, welcome. I was just speaking to Wanda, who's kindly volunteered to use one of her workshops that she runs and try to turn this into an AI assistant. I'll just share my screen now so we can start to have a look at that. So this is the Find Your Core Values workshop that Wanda has amazingly put together. So we're going to turn to AI. Just a bit of background for those that haven't seen this before. I ran a LinkedIn Live last Tuesday, I believe, where we tested this for the first time. So this is the second session, but the idea of it is that any coach or facilitator, course creator, anyone that teaches or leads someone through a transformation will have individual lessons or modules that they teach. What we're trying to showcase is how you turn what would be a normally manually delivered lesson into something that is AI supported. And in today's lesson, we're going to be turning like a lesson workshop into an AI assistant. For usage, this will actually be ultimately for Wanda's clients rather than Wanda to use directly herself. But it could be something that she shares into her program. It could be something that she runs a workshop on and shows how to use the assistant that we're going to create today for her clients to be able to find their core values. So we're here, let's get started. So step one is to collect your lesson materials. Here's what I need from you. So let's download this workbook. And we're also going to just grab your website because I think that would benefit as well. So very simple. And the idea behind this would be that coaches that are part of my program would have access to this tool in order to create AI assistants for their own group programs or for their own educational programs. So let's upload the core values workshop. And this now, the AI will analyze both the document and the website in order to understand a little bit more about you, Wanda.
Okay.
Looks like the main lesson you want to turn into an AI assistant. It's well structured, self-reflection journey using value-based prompts, exercises that guide users through identifying, shortlisting, and reflecting on their top core values, a closing reflection to lock in insight and self-awareness. What I still need to build the most aligned assistant, would you also share your program overview, including client description, transformation promise, and you graph these based on the website and resource.
Yeah, there's also an email that I sent you. Is it a text of the email?
Oh, there was, yeah, there was. I'd like to explore how I can create a context question answer recent book. Clients tend to work in corporates. When I coach them, I've developed one that exercises core value. Okay, great. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the conversation, the initial conversation that I had before. I'm just going to paste this in here so you get the full context. The below is perfect. So at this stage, we're mostly just building context for who you are, what you're trying to do. One of the things about AI is that if we try to just create an assistant for a core value exercise, it would be your exercise, and so you would end up needing to steer the assistant quite a lot to get it to reflect what you do and who you are and the way that you pitch that and the way that you like execute on that. And so in doing it like this, we start with the context. It aligns it directly to you to begin with, and then that makes the whole kind of assistant experience and the usability of the assistant much smoother, because you have to fight it less and prompt it less. So cool. Ideal corporate professionals feeling stuck in stressful jobs with poor work-life balance, pain points, over-pleasing, harsh inner critic, avoidance of conflict, overworking. Transformation goal: help clients reclaim energy, meaning, and impact in their work. Is that reflective for you, Wanda?
Yep.
Yep. Perfect. So specific lesson for the assistant. So this is find your core values from the Mindset and Spot book, principal workbook with self-reflection prompts and guided exercises. Perfect. Key activities: identify initial list of values, shortlist top 6 values, select 3 core values with awareness of how they may be overused, reflection on insights. Cool. So the next step for the assistant is to analyze the materials and help us define the purpose of the AI assistant that we will be building today. So I'm just going to say yes, let's continue. And we'll move on to task 2. Okay, so purpose statement. This assistant helps corporate professionals identify and reflect on their core values so they can make more aligned career decisions and reduce stress caused by overworking, people-pleasing, and self-doubt. Does that work as a sort of purpose statement for the assistant for you, Wanda? Does that sort of reflect what you'd want the assistant to do?
That's pretty accurate, yes.
Perfect. Hi, Jacqueline. How are you? Thanks for joining us. I'll just reintroduce.
Sorry, I'm late.
It's fine, no worries, no worries. I'll just
Sorry.
reintroduce what we're doing. We've kindly had Wanda offer to have one of her lessons and workbooks turned into an AI assistant today. So we started the assistant just by providing a bit of context about Wanda and the specific lesson that she wanted to turn into an assistant. And it's sort of, we've just sort of summarized her and what transformation she teaches. She helps clients reclaim energy, meaning, and impact in their work by addressing things like poor work-life balance. So we've continued now, we've defined the purpose statement, which was to help corporate professionals identify and reflect on their core values so they can make more aligned career decisions, reduce stress caused by overworking, people-pleasing, and self-doubt. So that's sort of like the higher level kind of purpose of the assistant that we're creating today. Wanda just approved that, just as you dropped in. So I'm going to say, yes, this aligns, and it will move on to the next task. For background information, this particular AI assistant or custom GPT that I'm using at the moment is part of my group program. It actually falls under phase 3. There's a little map that I do a visual map of the creation. So for phase 3, this is your build your program delivery assistant. So the assistant that I use to help clients in the program turn their lesson into an AI assistant. I know that's a lot of like, almost sounds like Inception. You know, we're using AI assistants to help us build AI assistants. But that is ultimately the idea of AI supported delivery, is that you have an AI assistant that can support the workshops, the lessons, the exercises. Great, next up is task 3, identifying key coaching moves. I need a bit of input from you. Reflective questions. What questions would Wanda normally ask live during this value exercise? Are there any metaphors, analogies, and frameworks she uses to explain the role of values? What key decisions does she want the user to make by the end of the session? Any insights from you, Wanda?
What I tend to do is explain that you will find impactful work or things that will make you come alive by things that you do well. And that's kind of how most coaches finish up, and that's that. I add an extra layer, which is the whole blind spot aspect, which is because you like these values or because they are so important to you, you then start overdoing them.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is you stand in your own way of your own success. So you're searching for the next step, you're searching for the next growth, you're searching for the next meaningful work, but actually, could that be because you're never satisfied with standing still because you have growth as a core value, and then in 6 months time we will have exactly the same conversation because you've just grown in this coaching program, finishes, and then you want to grow again and grow again.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, rather than feeding the desire, let's understand whether you're actually overdoing it and maybe working on doing less growth rather than constantly giving you what it is that you think you need.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this awareness of what your core values are, how important they are to you, and what happens when they're missing.
Okay.
Because the missing bit is probably the trigger for you being in the coaching in the first place.
Mm-hmm. That's a great start. Basic inputs in the worksheet. Here's a distilled list of key coaching moves for the assistant. Guides value discovery. Asks users to reflect on what gives them energy and what they naturally do well. Prompt them to select 10 initial values that resonate most. Encourage prioritization. Help users narrow down to a short list of 6 values. Ask reflective questions to test if a value is truly core. Would you defend this value even if unpopular? Is that something you would say?
Yeah, that's in the workbook.
Oh, perfect. Okay,
that's
good.
a question in the book.
Perfect. So it's actually then, so I'll reiterate what I mentioned to you before we click record, that when we're building that context, now the session is personal to you and your worksheet and the way that you speak and the questions that you ask. So even though this tool could be used by like any coach leading any transformation in any course, like turning any module into an AI assistant, once we get past that initial, like, who are you, what are you trying to do, everything else then is like fully personalized and supporting of your exact like specific thing that you're trying to create. Which also adds an extra dimension, especially in a group setting with group programs, where most of the time in a group program, very difficult to personalize the experience for each individual person, because you'll be teaching something that would apply to all of them, maybe highlighting like one person's use case, and they don't see it for themselves. Whereas with the AI supported delivery, they see it for themselves, because as they're using the tool, they see their own language, they see their own self reflected in the discussion. So deepen insights into 3 values, explore the positive influence of each value, discuss the potential downside of overusing each value, reflect on how important each value is and how they react when it's absent in their life/work, link to behavior and impact, connect their values to current stressors or patterns, overwork, conflict avoidance, ask what decisions might change if they honor their values more fully, support regular self-reflection. Suggest this exercise be revisited quarterly to track changes or realignment. If I remember correctly, you had mentioned to me that they wouldn't usually do this exercise more than once. So would you like me to? I'll take that out.
Well,
align with your method, really.
Now they can.
Well, yeah, now they can read. Yeah, okay, so let's leave it in. Let's leave it in.
Because normally the coaching program is already finished. So after the face-to-face coaching, they could potentially revisit this. And especially when they are triggered, so that they can understand where the big reaction is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're really upset with somebody. They really have had a bad week. They're really starting to question what's going on. A coach within 5 minutes will probably think that's to do with your core values,
Mm-hmm.
but they themselves may not see that.
Okay, so we might have something that sort of gets them to understand the indicators and then maybe prompts them to revisit this if they sort of see that. Okay, so
especially in moments of self-questioning or moments of strong reactions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the next stage, it actually moves on to structuring the assistant. So the way that AI assistants are built, we create a set of instructions or prompt for those of you that might not know it as instructions. So you'll see exactly what I mean as I guide through this, but essentially it's like a step-by-step flow that the assistant will follow. And if your workbook or your lesson that you teach is very sequential, like you get people to go through like a progression as the lesson progresses, then it's almost ideal for an assistant like this, because the assistant can guide through each step by step, the same way that you would guide step by step. So cool. So this assistant helps you. So the AI assistant would introduce itself to your clients when they use it. It says, welcome, this assistant helps you explore your core values, what gives you energy, meaning, and direction, so you can make better decisions, reduce stress caused by overworking, people-pleasing, or self-doubt. You'll reflect, prioritize, and examine how your values influence your choices and well-being. This tool is best used once a quarter to stay aligned and energized. So the suggested knowledge files that we will create at some point in this lesson, the actual workbook, like the original workbook, just so that we stay aligned, and then a voice and language guide. So that's how will the assistant speak to the user? Like what language will they use? Is there any phrases that we should avoid? Things like this. So the first task that the user will encounter is identify what gives you energy. So spark initial reflection and identify natural strengths. So prompt the user with reflective questions. What activities give you energy? What do you do well almost effortlessly? What values were molded by your parents? This might be too general. So do people tend to know what values they have before they come in, or is it like a, in fact, let's open up the workbook so we can see what your guided process was. So it covers you, because ultimately this is what we're trying to bring to life or make interactive.
Yeah, 4 questions in the orange box, so that about your parents is in here.
And this is the first set of questions that they would be asked. Okay, so let's make sure that we align with this. Okay, so the way that I refine these assistants is I always like to state that I'm giving feedback. So I'll say like feedback, and usually because the assistant has kind of given us like a fair bit of information, there might be like quite a few different places that we want to edit. So we'll say, you know, task 1. I'd like, in fact, let me do voice to voice with this. I'd like these to align with the first set of questions from the workbook. I'll paste it below. AI will then capture my voice and just add it to the end of the text. I find this quite a lot easier to use when I'm, if I have a lot to explain or have a lot to write, I don't type too fast. So sometimes it's easier just to jump straight into voice to voice to give it the answer. In fact, I haven't actually pasted it. It's attached. Attached in. Cool. Then select 10 resonant values, capture a broad but meaningful set of values, display list of 30 common values from the workbook. So, so this is the list. We most likely want to add these other knowledge files so that it can be referenced rather than just asking it to search the workbook. So copy these. So feedback for the second one. Times 2. This we will most likely be referencing values and descriptions. So the workbook as attached, and then attach that as well. Then task 3, shortlist the 6 values, begin refining what matters most, ask the user to narrow down, ask questions to guide deeper reflection. Okay, great. How does that one look?
Yeah, I think it's
can zoom in a little bit as well. So we narrow it down. Let me check the. So
yeah,
after
learning is
shortlist,
too simplistic in the
way that it's described.
But yeah, it is very similar questions, especially that last one. I think it'd be really better if I use my wording.
Did you stand? Yeah. Okay. That's So then task 3. So all of what we're doing right now is essentially trying to, although the AI assistant is steering the discussion, very much, and this is why I mentioned to you at the beginning that this very much has to be you that has the input, because if I was doing this for you, that nuance might be something that I miss, and therefore then won't be representative, it won't be authentic to your program and the way that you teach it and the questions that you would ask. So I'm going to say I've attached the exact questions we want to ask the user. Then task 4, select and explore top 3 values, deepen awareness of key drivers and their effects, prompt user to choose 3. Why is this value important to you? How does it positively impact your life/work? How might you be overusing this value? What happens when this value is missing? So does that reflect? What's your danger of overusing them? So based on, the top values, and then they answer those questions. Maybe what we'd want to do is make sure that they're filling this out in the same structure as what you actually created in the worksheet, so that it aligns a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this and say.
Yeah, well, there's 3 questions in here, right? There's not just select the top 3. For each of those 3, we're going to also ask, what is the positive influence and what is the danger of overdoing it? So I don't know whether that's task 5.
Yeah, it might be that we split it out. For task 3, we ask the user. Task 3. And it was really good instinct, by the way, Wanda. That's spot on. They're the kind of questions that you would be asking when you're creating the assistant, in terms of does what was one task before in my workbook still align as something that should sit as 1 in the assistant? It's it can be 2, and so by splitting them out, you focus each task more on the specific thing that you want them to do. And so what we'll say is we'd like to split the reflection of overusing and what's missing is listening into a separate task.
Yeah.
My spelling is terrible today. Yeah, into a separate task. Okay. Then number 5, reflect and apply. Let's give it this, and then we can see. I don't want to give it too many instructions, but we're nearly at the end. What that will do now is actually redraft based on all the feedback that we provided, and hopefully this will align much closer to what we need. So imagine that this is all the same.
Would you say it's easier to, or better to do it, respond to it one task at a time? I know you responded to 2 or 3 there in this instance. Is it easier, or are you going to get a better response from it if you're going, okay, task 1 and point 2 or whatever it is, rather than try and put it all into one?
Yeah.
I don't know. So,
yeah, in my experience, if you try to give feedback on one part, sometimes it doesn't always redraft the whole thing. It will like just give you the next one, and then you're sort of like following up the conversation, and it's sort of jumping back. Whereas if you give all of the reflection and feedback in one go, it will redraft the whole thing. The other reason to do it in one go, there was a time where it was less advanced, the AI, and it might have struggled. It would have lost context if you gave it too much kind of like direction. But the models are quite a lot more advanced now, so you end up using less messages, especially if you're using like a free version of ChatGPT where there's like messaging limits. It's probably also easier to just send it in one go, and you'll have less back and forth. But ultimately, both ways work, and it's mostly like a personal preference of like, do you like to just focus on one? It could be that if your change to task 1 really redirects the flow, then you might only want to give the first bit of feedback and then wait and see what comes next, or how it's then decided to kind of like continue from that point. But yeah, it's kind of like on the situation. But yeah, most of the time I tend to give like multiple points of feedback in one go. You're welcome. Thanks for the question. Perfect. So we had said like to align these with the first. So do these align now? What describes me best? What did I learn from my parents? What was I like at school? How would my best friend describe me? I think they were the same.
Yeah. That's now updated, so it's a better flow.
Yeah. Select your top 10 values, capture the user's most energizing aligned values, present the full list of values and definitions via the knowledge file, which we'll create. Ask the user to select 10 that resonate with their strengths, inspiration, and energy sources. Allow custom entries if they don't see their words, which I'm not sure if it actually had said that before.
No, but that's in the workbook.
Yeah, perfect. Let's pick it up. Cool. So shortlist your core 6. Again, these questions now, would I support it even if unpopular or difficult? So they're now reflective of the questions that you asked. Choose your top 3. So it's splitting them out now. So explore the impact of overuse is now its own task.
Yeah.
Explore what happens when it's missing is also its own task. So like we'll have that specific conversation with the user one at a time, and then reflect and apply. Integrate insights into choices and daily life. Invite users to reflect on where in your life is this value being honored, where is it being ignored, what would change if you made it more, if you made more room for it, what's one action you'd like to take this week based on these insights. And then the second part of that is to recommend revisiting this exercise quarterly to stay aligned. I think those questions do reflect. Let's have a look. Let's look at that.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. All right. So where do we go from here? So essentially what we've created is the task flow that the AI assistant will guide the user through for the workbook. The next part of this, and one of the things that I built into this assistant, in terms of I've built a lot of these assistants, and so I've got a fair amount of experience, maybe compared to the average person on building these. So I've captured my the way that I build these assistants and the way that I would go about creating an AI assistant, and instilled that process and that knowledge into this AI assistant that helps the clients that would be in the program. So based on that, knowledge files are an important part of building our AI assistants. The reason being is those core values, for example, in the context of this, if we hadn't provided them, what you'd end up finding is that the 30, and I think the initial reason that it used was like the 30 common values, that every time someone use that assistant, they may get a different set of 30 core values, but you have a set that you actually provide to the user. So we would create a knowledge file that has those in them, so that the AI assistant, when it gets to that task, can reference your values that you want them to assess. And that's one of the reasons why they're so important. So we're going to proceed. I hope that makes sense, Wanda. Yeah. Perfect. Does that make sense as well, Jacqueline? Yeah, perfect. Great, let's move on to task 5. So these are the suggested knowledge files. Suggested knowledge files, values gallery. So support task 2 by providing clear definitions of the core values. This allows the system to present them consistently and explain any value a user is unsure about. So accomplishment, advancement, adventure, commitment, compassion, competitiveness. There's quite an extensive list. I'm going to assume that these are aligned with.
Yes. So that's the wording from that. Yep.
Perfect. Yeah, fun, enjoyment, playfulness. Yeah, perfect. Cool. So it's pulled your exact kind of exercise task for the core value. So yep. I would say yes. This is yes. I like this. Like this. Can you as a downloadable .txt file? I always use txt file. It's just a text file in like the least complex, like plain text kind of format. Sometimes it's got a tendency of trying to create it as like a PDF or something a bit more like complex, but there really isn't very much need for that. It actually does a good job of doing it in text. So it will provide a download. So I just click the download. And if we open up that text file, we essentially have just a machine readable, like plain text set of the value description examples that were part of your exercise book. So great. So let's say what other files might we use? Let's make a list. I like to just ask it this because sometimes it gives like options that are maybe slightly outside of the box, and some of them work, but some of them don't. So sort of like it might spark an idea for something that you might use. Tone guide, voice of Wanda. So I think we probably should have something that understands the way that you speak, some of the phrases that you use. Coach and prompt library, a list of all reflective follow-up questions used in the assistant group by task. Why this helps, enables consistent tone and phrasing. This is overkill, to be honest, because we've already detailed out the questions in the actual instructions. If we were going to do it so that every task it just asked the knowledge file all the time, then maybe we do it like that. But because we wrote them out specifically in the instructions, there's no need to do this one. Then example value reflection sheet, showcase completed reflection from a fictional or anonymized client. Why this helps users understand the level of depth and honesty they can aim for. I'm not sure about that. How suggestive you want to be with like examples of their reflection sheet. Personally, it feels a bit personal. We don't want people to like not think about it because they read an AI example of it and they were like, yeah, that sounds like me, continue. But is that something that you feel could help?
Yeah, I think some people don't know themselves that well, and they can understand. They may not realize that the behavior that they've got is triggered because the core value is missing, for example. think loyalty might be a core value that somebody's got, and they can't think of what happens when loyalty is missing, right? Because they've never had that question. And then I might say, oh, here's what other people have said.
Okay, yeah, so that's a good idea then. Okay, great. So we'll also do that one.
You may do X, Y, or Z.
Okay, so yeah, so an example reflection sheet would be good. And then quarterly values check-in template, repeatable version of the assistant designed for quarterly review. Probably not, because I think it does that as part of that anyway. Blind spot watch list, a short list of common signs of overusing each value. Adds clarity in task 5 when the user reflects on the dark side of values. I think that might also be interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I would need to put some effort into that because I haven't got it, but yeah.
It's amazing. Cool. So yeah, so that's an exact example of, like, it could suggest stuff that might enhance what you're already doing, and it's not away from where you are already in terms of what your assistant is trying to do or what your worksheet is trying to do, but it gives the possibility of being able to reinforce and enhance the worksheet by, like, because it's so interactive, it can bring in other stuff. So let's do this one at a time and say, let's work through these one at a time, starting with number 2, because I already did number 1, and in fact I don't want to do 2, starting with 3, then 4, 5, 6, 5. So in this part of an exercise, because you're needing to define the knowledge file, it also forces you to have clarity on what you want that thing to be. So in this situation, it's like, how do you want your voice to sound? And it might not be something that you ever really thought about, but it gives an opportunity for us to be able to define it. So the purpose of this knowledge file is to enhance the assistant, ensure the assistant speaks in a way that reflects Wanda's grounded, insightful, emotionally intelligent coaching style. Tone anchors, warm and direct, feels like a personal conversation, no fluff, always supportive. Emotionally insightful, understands the user's inner life, names feelings and patterns gently. Empowering, help the user take ownership, not wallow, focuses on growth and alignment. Reflective, encourages honest self-inquiry and pause, not just ticking boxes. Occasionally playful, injects lightness where helpful, especially when discussing stuckness or overuse. Do they sound like they align with
Yes.
Yeah. And of course, for those watching the replay, if you did want to change this, you would do the same thing. So you would go in and say feedback and say, oh, for tone anchors, I'd like you to add this extra one, or can you change the last one, or whatever it might be. So common phrases, open reflection. Let's start with what shaped you. Don't overthink it. Go with your first instinct. Normalizing self-doubt. You're not alone in this. Many people overdo what they care about most. There's no perfect answer, just what's true for you right now. Empowering next step. One shift that you could honor this value more. You don't need to fix everything. Just listen to what your values are asking. Okay. So if we said yes, let's start with this now. This one too. And what you end up with at the end of the assistant is a set of knowledge files that are ready to be used, and hopefully before the close of the hour, we'll actually be able to create this AI assistant, this custom GPT, and hopefully give it a test, run. I will also share the link with you, Wanda, and maybe you could try to get one of your clients or someone to give it a test as well, and we can get feedback. What I found with these assistants is that I'll end up going back like 2-3 times, like myself, and saying, I'll create it, I'll then test it, I'll have a bunch of feedback, I'll go in, I'll refine it, I'll then test it again, and I'll do that 2-3 times until I'm ready. And sometimes I find, this doesn't really work, like it doesn't quite fit what I wanted, it doesn't quite do, and then just scrap the whole thing and start over. But because it's so accessible, because you can iterate so quickly, because it's just text, right? There's no like coding involved. You don't have to like do anything complex. You can do that refinement and that iteration and it just makes it so accessible. So yeah, let's continue. I'm interested to see what it gives us, the example value reflection. Client snapshot, mid-level manager and marketing team. Would you work with mid-level managers? Wanda? You would, yeah. Top 3 values: integrity, impact, relationships. Why these values? Can't pretend to be someone I'm not. Authenticity keeps me sane. Impact, I want to know my work changes something, even in small ways. Relationships, my best work comes through collaboration and deep trust. Do they sound like a feasible example for you, Wanda?
Yes. Yeah.
Overuse warning signs. Integrity, I sometimes hold back feedback if it feels like sugarcoating. I fear being inauthentic. Impact, I chase results obsessively and forget to celebrate small wins. Relationships, I take on other stress or overexert myself to keep peace. What happens when they're missing? Integrity, I feel fake drained, like I'm shrinking myself. Impact, work feels pointless, like I'm just pushing paper. Relationships, I isolate and start believing I have to do everything myself. Aha moment, I thought I was burnt out from overwork, but I realized I was burnt out from compromising my values. I need to stop apologizing for needing depth and purpose. Okay, how do you feel about that example?
That's a very typical conversation that I have. People think it's workload when in fact it's values.
Amazing, good. So AI first time. Let's download this as well. And you might remember, Jacqueline, from the conference workshop that when you build assistants like this and the assistant works like this, that you don't have to prompt it too much. Like, it already knows where it's going, right? It already knows the destination, and in this particular case, we're going to help the user identify their core values and all the other things that are part of the workshop. So we have a very clear direction. The assistant has a very clear direction. And so it doesn't need much steering. It's only like the user personalizing it for them and like responding. So did I already download that? Yeah.
Oh, it's built it for me. Very nice.
Perfect. Here's the example. Then here's a draft for the blind spot watch list, a compact list that highlights what overuse of each value might look like. Again, it might be a little long to go through all of these, but maybe just have a check for some of them, see if they align with the way that you would, what you would use, what you would say, Wanda. So accomplishment, obsession with outcomes, tying worth to productivity.
Yeah, go to loyalty and integrity. They tend to come up over and over again. What does it say for loyalty?
Loyalty, staying too long in toxic roles / relationships.
Yes, integrity, inflexible. Yeah, by using. Yep. I mean, it's accurate.
Great, good. I mean, that's exactly what we want, right? So let's do. As we go through this, does this impact how you feel about creating assistants, Wanda? Because I know that you're quite apprehensive.
Yeah.
But does this feel like something that you can do?
Oh, I know I can do it. I know what you're getting at. Yes, I mean, I suppose I'm thinking ahead to what information do I already hold that could easily be put into things like checklists, instructions, uploadable PDFs, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, I'm glad this is sparking stuff for you. So the next step is just I added this in to make sure that the assistant does and includes all the things that it should. So it's like a self-validating step. So yes, let's continue. Completion checklist, clear instruction, sets the tone and purpose. Each task reflects a coaching move. Formatting, follows all the headers, knowledge file integration, optional. Feedback. Let's ensure. Yeah. large files. Just appropriate places in the instructions. Great catch. Let's explicitly reference each non-file in the task instructions to ensure smooth in-app usage and clear context. So updated task reference. Task 1, use aligning phrases with the voice. Perfect. Right from the workbook. Values cross refile. Maintain tone. Coaching prompts. This is not actually in there. We never use this. So do have to. That's one thing that I do mention to people quite a lot. When they're using AI, there is an element of like it's written it all out, so I don't have to read it all. It's like, oh yeah, it looks kind of okay, and then they just like continue. But in order for this to truly be like an assistant, like that really supports you, you're already making so much productivity gain by allowing it to draft things and guide the process, that the extra few minutes that it takes to like make sure that it really aligns with you and what you're trying to do. Some people skip over that step, like, yeah, okay, it roughly looks all right, and then they end up when they're actually using it, it doesn't quite work. And so yeah, I mean, like this bit here about the prompt library, that's something that we didn't have it.
Yeah, the prompt in the questions.
Correct, yeah.
Correct.
We then use the code from the library. All the questions. Questions, reflections. Reflections are already and then I'll just new line just in case we do have any other feedback. So then reference the example. If the user needs an example, great. Supported examples from the blind spot checklist, watch list. Actually offer preview from this if they need it, great. The reflection. Don't know if they can now change this. That question was part of please shortlist
6, yeah.
Oh yeah, explore what happens when it's missing, explore the impact of overuse, choose
Yeah,
your top. Yeah. So yeah. And then used exact to truly let the coach authentically. Here's a correct version of task 3. It's not only task 3. We've changed the wording of the questions through many of the tasks. So that's like we'll go back, edit. It didn't quite understand what I meant with my sentence because I wasn't specific enough that it was all of them and not just task 3. So I'm going to send it again, get it to redo it. Also conscious we have 5 minutes, so we will need to speed through the creation. But that will be good because it will showcase how quick it is and how easy it is to actually build this system. Fine, so these are the actual questions now. Good. Does represent things I support even if my choice isn't popular, but the minority. Perfect. Okay, great. Much better. Much better. Much better. Let's see the full instructions in Canvas. For those that don't know what Canvas is, it's ChatGPT gives you the ability to like co-write with it, like you would in like a Google Docs. So if once this finishes, just as a tip, you can't edit it while it's still typing. It's probably right now at the bottom. Here. There we go. Here's your full instructions. Great. So once it finishes it, what you can do is, if you had like a specific one that you wanted to update, you could hover over it. Once you hover over it, you can ask ChatGPT and you can edit or explain. So if you said, oh, I want this question to be different, it would go to that specific part that you've highlighted and edit only that part. So it makes like collaboration between like yourself and AI much smoother, because you can be really precise about the things that you want to change. So great, that's perfect. So let's move on to output. Let's task 7. Export checklist. Download as a zip. Let's go open GPT Builder. That way we can be quick. Build your assistant, gives you instructions on how to do it. Upload these knowledge files, paste the full instructions, name your assistant, core values, clarity coach, the mindset alignment coach. Probably call it the same as the workshop, to be fair. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go to, on the left here, GPTs. Oh, actually, this should also just go to the same place. Oh, it actually goes straight into the editor. Even better. There we go. So this is just the configure screen of creating an AI assistant. I'm going to copy the name from the workbook, which was find your core values. So we're going to call this the find your core values AI system. The description is the one that it provided. Help corporate uncover their core values just by aligning what truly energizes them. Put the description in and go up to our little canvas. Just in the top right, you can copy. So I'm just going to copy, paste that into the instructions.
So can we take the word corporate out? Just to get...
Yeah, of course. I help professionals.
Yeah.
Do we use corporate anywhere else in the instructions? No. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not sure why I added that in. Maybe because that was like the target audience, it just pulls it in. Then what else we do? Then we just got to upload these files that we downloaded. So just go to upload. Should be 1, 2, 3, 4. Conversation starters, I always use let's get started because the system will introduce itself. Let's get started.
So you're not uploading the PDF anymore because this is built on the PDF.
Correct.
Yeah.
So which one did it not upload? We have the voice, we have the example, we have the values. Blind spot did not upload. So it's never open. No. An error. Let me just create it, and then I will refresh the page. Sometimes it just gets stuck. I can overrun by 5 minutes because I did wait 5 minutes because I want this to be like as close to a reflection of what a lesson would be with me, and I usually run these for an hour. So I want to showcase that it is possible to go from like never seen this lesson before, the AI's never seen it before, from scratch, create an AI assistant that you've built and can be used within the hour. So if I just refresh this page, hopefully it will let me upload that other item, Spot Watchlist. What does it not like about that file?
It was created within the AI tool and we didn't make a document, maybe.
It is there though. It should be okay. I'm sure it doesn't like it. Okay, I'm going to open it up and this one, save as text. Maybe it doesn't have the underscores or something. Just rename it. It's usually fine. But just try it like that. Sometimes it could just be that maybe it was saved with a little error or something. No, it doesn't like it. Why would that be? Don't save. Let's go back to this. The blind spot file won't upload. And you provide as a just try it as a different format. I don't think it has too much impact really. I usually do it as a text file because then that way, like, it's less likely that it will happen like that. That it will not like it. But you can just upload it like this instead. There we go. Cool. It can web search, it can use Canvas, it can use all of them, just enable them just in case. You can also use DALL-E, which is ChatGPT's old image generation. I'm sure that they'll update it to the new 4.0 at some point, just to create a little logo for the assistant. I'll then share the link in the chat for anyone that would like to test it. You don't mind me sharing your exercise GPT, do you, Wanda?
No. Interesting to see what people think.
Nina, do you, at the very bottom, if you keep scrolling down under there, is on mine I have like the additional settings button, and I have to make sure it's switched off so it doesn't use the data to train the system.
That is inside the I'll show you where that lives. I'll show you where that lives. It's not in here though.
Yeah, I have it on all of my custom GPTs. Okay. Once I've uploaded any knowledge files to it, I have that at the bottom. It's, you know, an additional setting.
You have a Plus account,
right?
You have a Plus account, Jacqueline?
I do, yeah.
That's strange. I've never seen that. It could be that they're testing different features. Has it been there for a long time?
Always been there.
Right, I've never seen that. Yeah, I mean, if you could take a little screenshot, maybe you could send it to me on LinkedIn or something. I'll have a look. Be interested to see. I'll put this link in the chat, but we're going to give it a test run now. So if I just paste this over here, this is what the AI assistant should look like. In fact, did I share it? May not have shared it. Share. Anyone with a link can chat.
Inaccessible.
Yeah. If you refresh, it should be available now. I just updated the share settings. This is another reason why I always recommend custom GPTs for like a program like this, is because it makes it so accessible for you to share it around. That, you know, there's no extra logins, there's no extra like custom stuff that needs to be built. So if we hit let's get started, hopefully the system will introduce itself. Let's begin with Gelderen.
Where I find them if I've clicked on it.
Once you've clicked on them and started to use them, they should appear in your sidebar under GPTs. So I've got like a whole bunch of different assistants, but this one I've just started using has appeared just on the left-hand side here for me. There is a way of hiding them, but not a way of like pinning them. Oh, you can now. Okay, so you can keep it in the sidebar. That wasn't possible before the last time I checked that. So from last week, they've added that feature, which is good. Cool. I mean, the assistant has started with task 1 straight off the bat, and it's used the questions that are directly the ones that we wanted them to use, Wanda, from your from your workbook. I imagine we would have to go through, answer the questions. It might take 20, 30 minutes to like give a full run through of the assistant. But in essence, the assistant is complete. Minus some kind of like testing and refinement. The assistant is essentially good to use for your clients.
All right. I don't know how to find it, but yeah, okay.
Do you want to share your screen? I'll show you if you like. For those watching on the replay, I will link the assistant in the post for the replay. How's that for you, Jacqueline?
Yeah, very good. It's very interesting to see how you have you've broken it down to the way to approach what Wanda had and to build it out. Step by step, it was very clear, so that she had, you could go in and give it feedback and say, not this is how. So yeah, no, it looked very good. Very good.
Good.
And I like the extra knowledge file suggestion as well, as you say. I think that's quite an interesting one. Yeah.
Awesome. So Wanda, you'll have to click the link that I shared in Google, just in the chat.
Yeah, done that. Can you see that?
Should open it out. Great. So if you click Let's Get Started.
Ah, okay.
Great. And then if you see on the left, now that you've used it, it's appeared.
Yeah.
So you may want to click on the three dots and just get it to like keep it in the side. Yeah, keep in sidebar. Cool. So that might keep it a bit more static now, so it actually stays there for you, so you can find it easily. What would happen though, if this was being created as part of the program, you would be creating this into your own ChatGPT account, and you can actually do that if you like. I built it into mine just for easeability, like of just building it quickly. But I can share the instructions and the files with you so that you can build it and of course own it yourself.
So if I want to test this with some people,
yeah,
I share this.
That link, yeah.
Here. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And there's also a way of copying it as well. So if you click where it says find your core values AI assistant at the top, where it says 4.0,
yeah.
If you click that, it says copy link.
Yeah.
4 or 5 options down. Yeah. And that'll be the URL to the assistant. And then all I have to do is just click Let's Get Started, and that jumps straight into the assistant. Amazing. Cool. Well, that kind of concludes the lesson for today. I did want to do just let me share it again. For anyone who is interested in my program, but also just to do an AI clarity for coaches session. This is essentially a 30-minute free session with me where I showcase how you can map your overall business, your overall coaching business, and how AI can support that. So we'll deep dive into your delivery, what kind of assistance you might build, the mindset shifts that change from going from manual delivery to AI supported delivery, but generally how AI can support your program. So I'll put a link to this both in the chat for anyone here that wants to book, but also for anyone in the replay, I will share a link with the replay. Great. Any final questions from anyone live? Are you happy with your tool, Wanda? Do you like it?
Impressed in an hour and 10 minutes.
Not bad, eh? Not bad.
What I really liked is that it started doing checklists without me having to create them.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at it high level, it was spot on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there is an element of, if you're able to capture like a really thorough process into an AI assistant, that it just does a really good job, and like it really does enhance what you already do. And a lot of the time, I said, it'll bring in options that, you know, some might be relevant, some might not be relevant, but they will cover things that you've already thought of, plus a few things that you haven't. And so I think this is an opportunity with AI to rethink how we build our workbooks and how we teach and how we coach, and enhance it, because like I said, AI can do so much of the heavy lifting.
Question for you. One of my clients who has actually got you know, a transcript, you know, a video of her delivering, you know, the module or the session. Would that be something also to take that transcript and upload that as a as when you're building it, or, you know, so it's actually got how that person talks and things?
Yeah, definitely. So if you let me
excuse me.
active prompts, lesson material collection. So at the start of the assistant, if I just scroll all the way back to the top, we gave AI like a bunch of context.
Okay.
So initially it was like a PDF, and then like the website, and then Wanda had put some additional information together, like through an email, just to explain more of the context.
Yeah.
In that situation, you might say, you know, I have a transcript here of when I ran the session live.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, even better, it has all the questions that you asked, it has everything. And so when we get to the part where it's asking about reflective questions, what questions would Wanda normally ask? Are there any, it already has all that context from the beginning, and it can extract it from there. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could definitely use that. And that would make it, you know, quite powerful, I imagine. It would really, really align.
Yeah. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. And Wanda, special shout out to you for allowing me to use your material to build an assistant and do this showcase today. I hope you guys had a good time. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Speak soon, everyone. Bye-bye.